Imagine you're a criminal in the late 1800s. Do you think you could get a fair trial from a drunken saloon keeper with no legal training who decides the law is applied as he desires and chooses his 12-man jury from his local saloon agents? Well, today we will learn how legendary saloon keeper, also known as the Law West of the Pecos, dispensed justice. According to Sean Tuma, who wrote an article in Review of Litigation, Judge Roy Bean would start his court with this quote: "Hear ye, hear ye. This honorable court is now in session, and if anybody wants a snort before we start, step up to the bar and name your poison. Hot ziggity dog." Judge Roy Bean was a well-known West Texas judge who led a legendary life up to his death. Today we will discuss how the legend began, interesting facts, Roy Bean's style of justice, and the legendary end. Judge Roy Bean was born Fantley Roy Bean Jr. in 1825 in Kentucky. He had to leave home at age 15, and he went to California, where his criminal acts caught up to him, and he moved to New Mexico. He joined the guerrilla group of the Confederacy, which eventually took him to Texas. In San Antonio, he was a wealthy businessman who even had a neighborhood named after him. It was Beanville. Legal issues caught up with him again there, and he left his wife and 4 children to start a clean slate in West Texas. So now we'll learn some interesting facts about Judge Roy Bean. Before he was a judge, or JP, he was known for being a thief, a cattle rustler, doing some slave trading, and he even smuggled cotton in exchange for guns. He owned a couple of saloons, one there in San Antonio, and then when he moved, he went to a railroad camp in Vine Garoon, which was in West Texas, and that's where he opened the Jersey Lily here. So he had a bear named Bruno. He was a black bear that would guzzle beer. That's kind of cool. And out back of the saloon, he had a zoo that had things like armadillos, coyotes, even a mountain lion. Those are a few of the interesting facts. But we'll move on to some Roy Bean style justice. He did not like lawyers. He considered it an insult if an attorney was in his court. And one time in particular, he had a lawyer question his authority, and he pulled his law book out and slammed it on a whiskey barrel and said, "This is the law." And then he pulled his Chrome 45 out, slapped it on the top of the book and said, "This is the law." And then he stood up and beat his chest and said, "And I'm the law." So that was one of the things he did. The bar room would change to the courtroom whenever he would pull off his apron and put on an old wrinkled jacket. That signaled to everybody that court was in session. He did things like everybody they were taking several recesses in court, and everybody would have to buy a shot or a drink or they'd be fined. Some of the punishments that he used were bizarre, humorous, or unethical. Things like fines, hard labor at his ranch, being chained in the desert for day and night just out of Bruno's reach, and hanging. Although he never actually hung anybody, he did sentence a couple people to hang, but they never made it to the gallows. He also would do weddings, and here you see he charged $5 for a marriage ceremony and $10 for a divorce, and he'd end every wedding ceremony with the quote, "May God have mercy on your soul." He was also had coroner duties where he did charge to investigate the death. One time he had a dead guy that had $40 in his wallet and a pistol in his belt, and so he confiscated the pistol and charged the dead man $40 for illegal carrying of a weapon. So that's some things that we learned about, his style of justice. Now let's learn about the legendary end. So in 1896, they had a surprise election, which he lost. And Bill Harris said that Roy Bean was quoted as saying, "A justice serves until his successor is duly qualified, and I won't step down until you can find a citizen of this precinct to swear the sidewinder who beat me deserves it." So they held another election. Judge Roy Bean won, and then actually served 2 more terms after that. So, also a legendary death, just like his life. He drank himself to death. He died of binge drinking. They found his body in his saloon, and they buried him in Del Rio, Texas, at the Whitehead Museum. And carved on his tombstone is, as you can see here, is Judge Roy Bean, Justice of the Peace, Law West of the Pecos. That was in 1903. Ironically, 10 months after he died, Lily Langtry, who he had never met, but he named his bar the Jersey Lily after, came to visit. She was in Langtry, Texas, asking to meet the judge. She didn't get a chance to meet him, but she did take back one of the chrome cult peacemakers she sent him and left some money for the school. So we covered how the legend began. We got some interesting facts. We went over Roy Bean style justice and talked about the legendary end. Imagine, like if we were criminals, do you think you got a fair trial, or maybe fined or left out in the desert? I don't know. But while you think about that, I'll leave you with this border proverb: there is no law west of the Pecos. Well, George Roy Bean was the law west of the Pecos, and he ruled with wisdom and common sense, and I think he was the right man to bring order to the Wild West.